You have to know the different functions of the cell organelles, and I listed them over here, the different cell organelles, and over here you see again a nice computer-based computer graphics drawing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through this whole list. You should already know these cell organelles from a previous video. And I'm going to tell you what they do. I'm not going to write down the function over here for the sake of time and space, but you have to know it. So what I recommend is that you make yourself some kind of a little table where on the left side you have the name of the cell organelle, and on the right side you have the function. So a table that looks, I don't know, where I'm going to draw. I don't even have space to draw here. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, you have the cell organelle, and then your organelle, and you have the function. Of course, the function column should be a little bit larger. Then you write down, I don't know, in this case, let's say ribosome. And over here in the function, you say it's a protein synthesis. Okay, so and that's basically what you do with all of these here. Before you do that, please be careful. There is a difference between function and how the organelle looks like, or what it appears to be like. So, for example, if you say for nucleolus, and you write down a cell organelle nucleus, it's not even a cell organelle. That's a bad thing. So maybe you should also give it a different name. But if you say, for example, nucleolus over here and then function, it is a dark region inside the nucleus, then it's not really a function. Okay, so that is something where you got to be careful. Do not simply describe it, how it looks like, but if they ask you for a function, you actually have to say its function. And I know it's not always easy for some of them, and I just realized that the nucleolus is strictly speaking not a cell organelle in the sense, because it is not surrounded by a membrane. So number one, this is the nucleolus, it's not a cell organelle. So I'm not quite happy with my own description over here. In any case, I'm just going to erase this, and you know what I mean. So the function of the nucleolus, and that's this region number one over here, is the site of RNA synthesis. This is the place inside the nucleus where transcription occurs. And if you don't know what transcription or RNA synthesis is, then you simply write it down anyway, because you have to know it later. So that's the place where RNA is synthesized. The nucleus is the cell organelle which is very large. How is that? It's the largest cell organelle. How do you like this as a description of the function? It says, no, what did I just tell you? This is not a function. The nucleus, the function of the nucleus is to store the genetic material, the DNA. That is the function. And just describing or telling the person it's the largest cell organelle inside the cell is not a function. So the nucleus is responsible for storing the genetic material. The ribosome, and there are two types of them over here. Number 3, you see these ribosomes on the RER, and on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. These are these dots over here. There are also 3 ribosomes floating around in the cytoplasm. The function of the ribosome for both of these types is to synthesize proteins. They make proteins. Synthesis is a fancy word of saying the making of something. So they make proteins. Vesicles are number 4 over here. You see a vesicle over here. You see a vesicle over here. It's cut open, okay? So that's, in reality, it's round, but over here they cut it open so that you can actually see that there is something on the inside. It's hollow. It's not really hollow because there are enzymes in there or proteins to be secreted. So the vesicles transport proteins around in a cell. The vesicles transport the proteins. The ribosomes make them, and the vesicles carry them around and transport them. The rough endoplasmic reticulum, RER, is number 5. Over here you see this large membrane network with all the ribosomes on it. What are they good for? Well, they got the ribosomes on them, so they are, in that sense, involved in protein synthesis, but they also form the vesicles. So the vesicles number 4 that you see are formed because the RER folds out and forms this little bubble, this vesicle, which then floats around. So they are responsible for, RER is responsible for making proteins over the ribosomes and for also making the vesicles which then contain the proteins that they just made. Something that I might not have explained before, which is now maybe a possibility to explain. Rough is clear. It looks rough because it looks because of the ribosomes. They make it appear rough. Plasmic refers to the cytoplasm, and endo means inside. So inside the cytoplasm, a reticulum is a network. So it is a rough network inside the cytoplasm. I think that's the original origin of the word. But again, that's simply an explanation of the name, but not an explanation of the function. The Golgi apparatus, some people also call the Golgi body. This is number 6, a stack of membrane discs, and the Golgi is responsible for concentrating and modifying proteins. I know what you're thinking again, proteins. The ribosomes make the proteins, the vesicles carry them, the Golgi body modifies and packages them. And that's its function. The cytoskeleton, number 7. Where is number 7? I cannot find it. Down here, okay. Down here, it looks like a string over here. It's not one string, actually it's many of them. It's crisscrossing the cytoplasm from the inside, and they have not drawn all of them. And this is called the cytoskeleton, and it holds the cell together from the inside and prevents it from bursting. We're talking about an animal cell over here, in case you didn't realize. It's an animal cell, and animal cells also have the danger of bursting if they take up too much water. So they need some kind of a system to prevent it from bursting. And one way is kind of to hold the cell together from the inside, to have these wires, basically, you don't call it wires, the cytoskeleton, stretching through the cell, holding the cell together from the inside. By the way, I know that I'm sidetracking a little bit, but there are certain towers which are very high, and to prevent them from bending over too much in the wind, they also have wires stretched on the inside to kind of hold it together from the inside. Because that's necessary in animal cells, because we don't have a strong outer cell wall. So the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the SER, is number 8, and you see over here there are no ribosomes present. And one function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is the synthesis of lipids. It makes lipids, among other things. It makes lipids, and it makes membranes, because membranes are made of lipids. Mitochondrion is number 9. Over here you can see the nice little infoldings over here again. And the mitochondrion is responsible for cell respiration, and this means that it provides the cell with energy. That its function, okay? Number 10, vacuole. Over here it's drawn as a circle. Over here it's slightly bigger than the vesicle, and you see, because it's an animal cell, the vacuole is not so big, and vacuoles store food storage. So the function is the storing of food. Number 11, cytoplasm. 11 is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the liquid contents of the cell. And if you write this down as a function, then it is wrong. Because the liquid of the contents of a cell is not a function. The liquid contents of, you actually have to say the cytoplasm is the place, or the responsibility of the cytoplasm is to carry out chemical reactions. Many enzymes can be found inside the cytoplasm, and they carry out the chemical reactions. Number 12 is a lysosome, and over here you see that it looks very similar to a vesicle, and indeed it is a little structure surrounded by a membrane. And the lysosome, however, they contain digestive enzymes because animal cells, being heterotrophs, they take in food molecules from the outside and they have to be further digested. And lysosomes carry enzymes which break down these food molecules. So what's possible is that these lysosomes over here, they fuse together with the vacuole over here containing a food molecule, and the enzymes are released into the vacuole and the food is digested. So centriole number 13, over here, these are both of them, and they're arranged in a 9-degree. They produce, or they form, the so-called spindle fibers, which are important for cell division. They form the spindle fibers. Now, just side information, plant cells do not have these centrioles, but they are still able to form the spindle fibers. For whatever reason, they could not find any centrioles under the electron microscope in plant cells. And then number 14 is the cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane. And the plasma membrane controls what goes in and what goes out of the cell. It's a semi-permeable membrane, so it is responsible for releasing the wastes going out and take-up of nutrients going in. And now that I've explained you all of these functions over here, just realize that I'm actually very unhappy with my own slide over here, because not all of these structures or terms over here, not all of them are cell organelles. I already told you the nucleolus is not a cell organelle. Some people do not consider the ribosome to be a true cell organelle because it does not contain a membrane. So it's now a question of a definition a little bit. Do all organelles have to have a membrane? So a vesicle is a cell organelle. The RER is a membrane, a cell organelle. The cytoskeleton, is this really a cell organelle? You usually do not refer to as such. SER is fine, mitochondrion is fine, vacuole is fine, cytoplasm is also not a cell organelle. And centrioles is also a question. It's not surrounded by a membrane. Is it really a true cell organelle? It is a little bit, how shall I say, questionable over here. So, how do you define cell organelle? I'm just going to give you a definition which is very general. A cell organelle is a structure found inside a cell, whether or not it's made of a membrane or not. And then, of course, well, the cytoplasm, is a cytoplasm really a structure? The cytoplasm is certainly not a cell organelle, not an organelle. So even with this more general definition, there's some things over here which, how shall I say, do not quite fit the definition. That's just the way it is, okay? Over here, we kind of got to find a compromise. I'll have to explain you what the different functions of the cells are. On the other hand, how do you define cell organelle? I found different textbooks who would disagree even on the definition of on a ribosome. Some say, well, it's not a cell organelle. And other textbooks say, well, it is a cell organelle, but it is a so-called a non-membrane bound cell organelle, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, yeah. Let's not get into details and get lost. I think it's important that you simply understand the different parts of the cell and what they're responsible for. Okay, so this was it, and yeah, make sure that you have a table and memorize the function of these, how shall I say, cell parts or structures.